Hi everybody, my name is Jennifer Muzzy, and for my digital anthropology research project I studied teens' trust on Twitter. My interest in this first peaked when I took my daughter and a friend of hers on a trip, and even though they were together in the same space, in the same car, or in the same hotel room, they were still always on Twitter, and they would communicate on Twitter, and they'd say, hey, did you see who tweeted this? And I don't understand how they could spend so much time on Twitter. And then my daughter started telling me about some of the things that happen on Twitter, and I decided I needed to know more. So I had never used Twitter before this project, and I had a lot to learn. I wasn't just going into the Twitterverse, I was going into Stan Twitter. More specifically, I was going into K-pop Stan Twitter, Korean pop music. The Wikipedia states that Stan Twitter is a community of Twitter users that post opinions related to music, celebrities, TV shows, social media. The community has been noted for its particular shared terminology, a side of Twitter where fans of particular interest can connect. So I didn't have a Twitter account, so my main informant set me up with one. She created my name, my handle, basically my profile. And here it is. It is very K-pop related. So after setting up my account, she then invited me into a group chat that had on average 15 participants. Sometimes there were more, sometimes there were less. For the first week, I just watched or lurked. I wanted to get a feel of what these girls were up to, just get a feel for Twitter. And the messaging was insane. I would leave Twitter and come back an hour or two later and have over 100 messages that I would have to read through to catch up. These girls spend a lot of time on Twitter. And when I was going through the messages, it became very evident that I needed to learn the language, not only of Stan Twitter, but of teenagers. I thought I was cool and hip. No, I am not. So for this, I went back to my main informant and asked her what in the world everything meant. So she had to clarify. Mutes are mutual friends. You follow them and they follow you. DM is direct messaging, which is where the group chat took place, but I didn't learn that until later. RT is retweet. Stan basically means you support them wholeheartedly. They're your absolute favorite. IRL is your offline relationships. So after I learned some language, watched the group for about a week or two, it was time to stop observing and start participating. This was easier said than done. Before I could start tweeting, I needed to learn how to tweet. Oh man, bless my informant. I consider myself pretty tech savvy, but as you can see, I was at a loss on this one. I'm grateful my informant had endless patience with me on this. So the group chat, as I said, was pretty active up until this point. And then I sent my first tweet. And you could hear the Twitter crickets chirping. It was so bad. The group chat went dead. It was the mom effect. When an authority figure enters your space, you act differently. I did it when I was a teen. I even do it now. If my boss is approaching me, I act like I'm busy. But Dana Boyd explained it best in her book, It's Complicated. While they may be comfortable having strangers overhear their exchange, the sudden appearance of someone with social authority changes the context entirely. On a side note, I feel that anyone who deals with teenagers needs to read this book. I always thought that I was a more free-spirited parent until I read this book, and now I know that I am just a cliche, typical parent. But I do have new perspective and new respect for my teens and their use of social media. Anyways, back to the research. I had to negate the mom factor somehow. I had to show them that there was, that I wasn't there to judge them. So how do you do this? And I stay on Twitter. I talked about the one thing they all had in common that I knew about, K-pop. I had to earn their trust because, after all, that's what I was there to study. So with my very limited experience with K-pop, I started talking about it, and I would ask them questions, and I was genuinely interested because it is part of who they are. And they started to warm up quickly. They accepted me as one of their own, but they were still really cautious. So it was with this context collapse in mind that I decided to make surveys anonymous. So hopefully the participants would be more apt to answer honestly. First, I needed to know who I was dealing with. So I asked them their age and what area they live in. They were ages 14 to 23, and as you can see, they were from all over the world. And on average, they spent 4 or more hours a day on Twitter. That is a long time. And that explains why I had so many messages to go through. The next obvious question was, what social media app has the most trustworthy people? 70.6% said Twitter. Wow. Why Twitter? What is so different about Twitter that makes you feel this way? Of the 26 responses that I got, the general consensus was that they can get a feel for others, and they have more in common with their Twitter mutes than they do with their IRLs. And knowing how much time they spent on Twitter, I can kind of understand that. As a working adult, I become close with the people that I work with because we spend so much time together. The main difference is that when I'm working with them, I'm face to face. I have that contact with them. I know who they are. I've seen them. On Twitter, you don't know. However, there was one response that pretty much summed up how this particular group felt, and it really resonated with me throughout the rest of my research. They have showed me more kindness than those IRL and tend to be more open-minded than those I meet offline. That is a sad reality. It was digging deeper into this response that sent me spiraling down the rabbit hole. I am knee-deep in the secret lives of teenagers right now. So when I asked if they had more than one Twitter account, 88.5% of them said yes. Why do you need other Twitter accounts? Well, some of the responses were innocent, like they had one for each version of Stan Twitter, they had a Stan Twitter and then a regular Twitter. But 87% of those respondents said that their Stan Twitters were kept secret from their IRL Twitters. Wow. 87% had a secret Stan Twitter account. Why? Well, the general consensus was that they lived in small-minded areas and that they would be ridiculed and not accepted if their IRLs knew about their Stan Twitter. So I was starting to see a pattern here. With juggling so many Twitter accounts, these teens risked their worlds colliding. What would happen if they did collide? 32.4% of them said that their IRLs would be offended by the content of their Stan Twitters. 38.2% said that they weren't sure what would happen, but hoped it never happened. If their worlds did collide, these teens risked ridicule from IRL peers, rejection from friends and even family, and even being ostracized from the community they lived in. What were they hiding from their IRL relations? When I asked if they share more personal things on Twitter than they do with their IRLs, an overwhelming 73.1% said yes. 15.4% they haven't yet, but they would, and only 11.5% said no. Why would these teens be so ready to divulge their life secrets to mutes over somebody they've met and known and are personal friends with? I had to know, what was it that they can share on Twitter that they can't share offline? For this group, was it a passion of K-pop? Yes, actually. Sexuality, that was a big one. Yes, you heard me. Sexuality. Why did these girls feel the need to hide who they were? Wow, this group feels more comfortable coming out on social media to people they had never met before rather than coming out to their offline friends and family. That is sad. Was there something about their mutes that they felt more comfortable with when compared to their IRLs? They clearly had more trust and faith in their mutes than I anticipated. But have they ever fallen for a lie? Or better yet, have they ever told a lie? When I asked this, 97.1%, yes, 97.1% said yes, they have been lied to. Well, how do you trust after that? So many of them have fallen for these lies and they still trust these Twitter relations more than they do their IRL relations. And their response to this was, because you can't hold what someone else did to you against the next person who enters your life. What? Yes, you can. Society says that we need to learn from our mistakes. So you lied to me. My trust level in humanity as a whole diminishes, and it won't happen so easily next time, and you personally are gone from my life. Not the case with this group. They simply block the person who lied, or they talk and work it out. Forgive and forget. Well, that takes a beautiful, strong person, or an innocently naive person who will get destroyed in the real world. Either way, good for them. I hope they never lose that. So I wanted to know, well, how did you handle the situation when it happened? When you found out that somebody was lying to you, what did you do? And only 4 people responded. One said, we're still great friends. Another said, stayed friends. Another said, I exposed them in a group chat and blocked them. And the 4th person said, we stayed friends but naturally grew apart. They lied about something minimal, but something they didn't have to lie about. So, how many of these how many of these respondents had actually been liars? So I wanted to know if any of these respondents had been the liars themselves. Out of 34 responses, only 8.8 admitted yes. 14.7 said they just haven't been caught yet. 76.5% said, no, I haven't lied on Twitter. I don't know if I believe that. So needless to say, they consider themselves honest, and therefore they must assume that everybody else is as well. So, are you starting to see a pattern? Because I am. So when it comes to trust, is there anything that these girls will not share online? Yes. Simple answer. It's a general rule that you can ask the state or the country that the person is from, but you never ask or tell any more specific demographic details. I like that. It keeps you safe. However, with every rule, there is an exception. Over half of the group responded that they had met somebody offline after only meeting them on Twitter first. I know that my daughter has done this because I came to the realization today that I was with her when this happened. We had gone to a show in Texas, and after the show, we met up with some of the other fans that were part of her Twitter group chat. Not a good situation. That could have been very dangerous, and it just hit me today. So we will be discussing that. So why do these teens feel like they have to hide who they are? Well, there were some interesting responses to that. Because not many people know me IRL, and I feel that I can actually be myself because I relate to most people on Twitter, so it makes me more confident in myself. Because there's more people like me as a lesbian gal. I know no one will bully me. If they do, they will get dragged. Because on Twitter, I can be myself in a homosexual light that I couldn't be in my homophobic town. I can be open about my interests and share them with people who think the same, like K-pop. I'm also bi and posted this on Twitter like a year before I even came out to my IRL friends who have known for most of my life. My family still doesn't know, but on Twitter it's just not a big deal. Because I meet people who help me embrace myself. Overall, the general consensus was, I won't be judged. Are we such a harsh society that we judge our teens and force them to be what we want them to be, rather than be themselves? These teens trust more in Twitter because they get better support, love, and encouragement from their mutes than they do their IRLs, and that includes their very own families. Obviously, change is needed. Teens today have more pressure on them with structured schedules and the advent of social media, and they need more support and love through it. We are so focused on the cyber dangers and cyberbullying that we lose sight of the IRL dangers. Fear of rejection, peer pressure, all of that was there when I was a teen, and it's still there. except it is amped up with the advent of social media. And these teens feel so pressured to be what we demand of them that they have to escape their realities by going online and divulging their deepest secrets to their mutes on Twitter rather than their family and their friends, and it causes this double life, which only adds to their stress. And society needs to change. We need to accept these teens. We need to help these teens. We need to understand where these teens are coming from, and communication is the key to this. We have to love them through all of their changes.